I'm going to pass over to Zoe for the very last word.
Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate those of you who stayed this long, even with the lights coming up and it feeling like time to go home. I won't take too long. Hi, I am Zoe. I am one of the original people who was crazy enough to think that we could make a left-wing case to stay in the EU with another Europe as possible, and I think that we gave it a really good shot. I've really enjoyed the contributions today, and I thought maybe I'll bring us back to where we started, right? The reason we originally called any kind of action today was because we were threatened with an 100,000 strong march on the Supreme Court, led by Nigel Farage. Now it's really funny because when we announce demos from the left, the press doesn't report our projected best ever figure. But that's what they did for Farage. Anyway, that march had to be called off, let's not forget, because he couldn't justify the type of people who were going to come along and try to intimidate our judges and our judicial system and the rule of law in this country, which is so fundamentally important. He knew that the only way he was going to get even a few thousand, let alone 100,000, was by relying on the racist elements in this society who would be there to cause trouble, and he couldn't have justified it and saved face. And that is a victory, and we've run through a couple of them tonight, but there are small victories out there, and we should be proud of that. We should be proud that he was ashamed to bring his own supporters out onto the streets. The ordinary people of this country took back control of that process and refused to accept the idea that one tick on one piece of paper one time was a license for whatever the hell Theresa May wants to do. We need to take back control. And what that means is that we have to be clear what we want from Brexit. Okay, we didn't want Brexit. But now that we're getting it, we have to put forward an idea of what we want, and we have to articulate that strongly, and we have to articulate it to our MPs and say that we don't want any old kind of Brexit that Theresa May comes up with behind closed doors. We want transparency, we want these questions to be debated, and we want our MPs to represent our interests, and as has been said eloquently tonight, not just wave it through whatever it is. I think one of the most annoying analogies that we've had time and time again is this poker analogy with Brexit. And I think it represents a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation. We're not trying to keep our cards close to our chest. The EU know exactly what our cards are. There was this thing going on Twitter this morning, and it was fantastic. It's this guy doing one of those magic tricks, you know, where you put a ball in the cups and you switch the cups around, and then you ask them to guess which cup has the ball in it, but the glasses were see-through. That's our government's bargaining position on Brexit. So this lie about, we can't let you know what's in our hand is just a smokescreen to stop us from having proper transparency and a proper discussion about what this Brexit is going to actually look like and what will benefit the most people. So I'm really glad that Luke came up and so well illustrated what we think we need from Brexit, the very key things that we believe should be red lines in this discussion. And I'm going to come back to, obviously, the most difficult one and the one that comes up the most, which is freedom of movement, of course. I think what was really nice about what Joe transmitted to us was this idea of a Europe of equals. And I think that that's where people in this room start. An idea that we know better than somebody else because of where we were born, our cultural background, our religion, our ethnicity, everything of that kind. A Europe of equals has to be something that we genuinely are prepared to fight for. And I'm really, really upset that Clive has left, but I hope that I'll get the chance to say this to him because I have a lot to say in response to him. And I do think that it's uncomfortable to see somebody tie themselves in these kind of logical knots to try desperately to come around to a position that they clearly don't really hold. And I don't think that it's just Clive that we have to doubt on whether or not he really believes that freedom of movement isn't a good thing. Nobody in this country believes the Labour Party when they come out against it, so they're not going to win that argument. I mean, Clive doesn't believe, but he doesn't believe that the fact that Europeans, firstly, not all Europeans are white, so can we just drop that one right now? that Europeans have rights that non-Europeans don't have in terms of immigration, that the solution to that is removing rights from Europeans. He doesn't believe that. You do not gain more rights for all by removing the rights that you already have. You just don't. He doesn't believe that. Clive doesn't really blame freedom of movement for the poor conditions that some migrants live in this country. He doesn't. He's trying to find a way to justify himself the fact that he is backing down on something fundamentally important. And we need to ask our politicians, demand of our politicians, that they hold the line. Because, I'll tell you, this is the fundamental reason why, because where will they go next? Because we all know that if we end freedom of movement, these people's problems, the people who are voting against it, will not go away, right? And who will they blame next? Who will they be told to blame next? Because there will still be Muslims, and there will still be immigrants, and there will still be a whole host of scapegoats that they can blame this on. Will Clive then go after them too? Immigration's not going away, so we have to address it. It's hard and it's a long-term project, but the only way that we can address it in any way that fundamentally supports our own values is to work on changing that narrative. Exactly what Caroline was saying before. We need stories, we need myths, we need characters, we need ideas. We need to talk about mixed communities who stand up together, workers who all work for one company, who all live in one town and who are all part of one community, and who some of them happen to have been born elsewhere, and some of them happen to be married to someone who was born elsewhere, and some of them happen to have children, therefore, who are brought up with multicultural backgrounds, and they all care about their wages, and they all care about the social care available for their parents, and they all care about the school places for their children, and all of them are fighting together as diverse, mixed communities who are stronger when they are not divided. So I promise I'm not going to go on too long, and I am actually already going to draw to a close. I want to keep this conversation going, though, about the ideas for those campaigns. How do we put those stories out there? The Daily Mail won't print them. I've got a lot of ideas, and I want to start putting them forward through another Europe as possible. We've got to get support, though. We've applied for some funding. If we're going to make a video campaign, we need to get it. We need to get support from people like you to keep spreading our message, because, like I say, the mainstream press isn't going to spread our message. So when we put forward these campaigns, I really hope that you guys will pick them up and will share them further. I want to end with a plea to every MP apart from Caroline. We just saw a relief happen in Austria. A fascist denied the chance to be head of state. And his opposition candidate, the Green Party candidate who won the presidency, ran on a very strong slogan. And it was, people who love their country do not seek to divide it. Hold the line.